Today in the crypto space, we see the market at critical levels. Bitcoin right around $69,200, up approximately 2.4%, and Ethereum right around that $2,500 level, going sideways, while the rest of the crypto space, the altcoins, are trying to figure out what to do next. Are we going to be pumping to the upside, or are we going to be retracing for a buy the dip opportunity? In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, I want to talk about one project, one AI project that might be a good gainer, and that project is called IONET. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins. Looking for opportunity, whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's see what's going on here with this market. The market cap got a nice bounce to the upside. Still within structure, testing the previous highs. So that's fine, but at least a nice little bounce up right around $2.4 trillion. But what's more interesting to me, like usual, is the trading volume. As the volume increased, so does the market cap. So that means market consensus, market participation is in consensus with this move to the upside. I appreciate it. I like it. Now, if you look what's happening with Bitcoin, Bitcoin is currently at a very critical level. Is it going to break out? Guys, this is it. This is where we're at with Bitcoin. Is it going to break out and start getting into a run to the upside, a short squeeze incoming? Very, very possible. Obviously, guys, tonight at 8 p.m. EST, join me live. We'll talk about Bitcoin. We'll talk about all altcoins opportunities out there, altcoin season, Bitcoin dominance, and better yet, guys, I will be taking requests. If you have any projects you want me to cover, that is a great time and place to make those requests. And I'll definitely take a look at charts to see if we can find good setups out there. We do see a lot of these altcoins looking okay, right? So a lot of them. Now we see Dogecoin looking strong in the last little bit, but what we call okay currently is where we see support, right? Obviously, relative to Bitcoin, relative to even Doge, even Solana, some of these altcoins are not doing the greatest. However, they are doing okay because they are in a great opportunity to be scaling in, especially if you're on the sidelines. Now is a good red day. Obviously, we've been having a few red days in the last little bit. You can see Cardano going sideways. Cardano's getting a bit of talk because of its compatibility with Bitcoin all of a sudden. So pay attention to that concept or that narrative, that Bitcoin narrative. Cardano entering that narrative could be a good one. AVAX, I'm bullish on AVAX. It is an older project that's been around, but it's still looking pretty good, for a potential move to the upside. I see Chainlink kind of stagnant. Another one that you might want to look at, oracles are definitely an interesting thing. You could see definitely a lot of retracements. Aptos, Sui coming down 5.5% in the last 7 days. You are able to capitalize on an almost 20% dip. This is an opportunity. Now, of course, don't try to catch that falling knife. Wait for that support zone. Wait for that structure, that pivot point structure, the change of character. These are things that you got to wait for, guys, patiently for, or else you're basically trying to catch a falling knife. But Sui, at the end of the day, is one of those projects that could be a really good gainer. Now, I'm going to be looking into Sui-based ecosystem projects in the next little while because they have been coming down based on, Sui coming down. So that's going to be an opportunity, obviously, to gain into the volatility that Sui could provide. Given the fact that Sui is at about $4.5 billion, it's quite massive already. So we have to understand that if you want volatility within the ecosystem, you're going to have to get into the projects that are being built on Sui that are low cap, right? So that's basically what I'm going to be looking at in the next little bit. And what else do we have here? Lots of dips to be had. Some projects looking pretty strong, like they're ready to roll to the upside. But for the most part, you can see everything's kind of red here, guys. If you're into IMX, if you're into the OG of Filecoin, looking okay as well. We see Arbitrum flatline, not really that interesting. OP flatline, not really that interesting. Thorchain Rune is killing it, guys. Doing very, very well. 6.8%, up 13.2% the last little while. I believe it's the catalyst. The catalyst that now we can do swaps with Ledger directly on our ledgers. Thorchain is available on the ledger, so that's a really good catalyst for some bullishness. And obviously, you know, because we're now able to transact that way, Thorchain is able to collect a lot more fees. So that's really bullish. Now, Phantom's holding up as well. Pretty good, even though it is down approximately 8.8%. It's still holding okay. And as we start this week, you can see that we're dripping a little bit. Obviously dripping. Look, even Say coming down. We do have a dip on Mantra. Is it enough? Not yet for me. You know, I might even decide to focus on the ecosystems that I'm currently involved in and dig deeper. You know, buy some more, you know, Radium, Jupiter for that Solana play. Buy a little bit of AI projects that are on Solana. And of course, we're going to be talking about IONET today. But I just want to continue looking at these projects because really, what is the sentiment today? The sentiment is that altcoins are, you know, hurting while Bitcoin is showing a lot of strength. And that's one of the concerns is that if you're an altcoin holder, are you going to be capitulating out of your bags? Or are you going to be taking full advantage of the opportunity, which is to be buying the dip, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at. All right, guys, so you can see the market is giving us opportunity. And of course, you want to talk about charts. Let's get into it. Bitcoin, what are you doing? Bitcoin is definitely looking for that breakout. And as we speak, it is knocking out that door at resistance, looking for that move. Now, could we get a short squeeze where all these individuals that are shorting around these levels eventually get wrecked and we see volume increase and then we start moving to the upside? Guys, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Ultimately, it's all about Bitcoin currently. Now, there's a couple of theories that we could have here right now. Number one, Bitcoin, as it's showing strength, where the traders going to go? They're going to be going where the strength is at, and Bitcoin is where it's at, right? So in that case, altcoins could be ignored. Number one, maybe going sideways. Number two, altcoins could also be dipping because of this, because people are going to be looking for the opportunity. So let's say that you have some capital deployed in some sort of altcoin and you're like, wow, Bitcoin is moving. What should I be doing? And you don't have any capital, or maybe you do, but you want more. You're going to sell your altcoins and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to get into Bitcoin because it looks like it's going to break out. And, you know, there's a pretty high chance probability wise that it will break out. As soon as Bitcoin breaks out, I'll take profit and go right back into the altcoins. Right? And that's usually what happens. That's called a rotation. And ultimately, we know that Bitcoin usually is the one that leads the bull run, right? And altcoin season happens when Bitcoin runs and people take profit off their Bitcoin trade and rotate that capital into more speculative assets because they've already done well in Bitcoin. Now, you got to understand, some people bought the absolute bottom here on Bitcoin. Now, I was lucky that my average entry on Bitcoin was right around 20K. I bought a little bit lower and a little bit higher, and my average entry was right in here as we were creating that pivot point structure and eventually moving to the upside. Now, people like me that bought in the greatest level of volume, a lot of market participation down here, are in some green. And the reality is we're not going to be taking risk in price discovery because I'm already up significantly on my Bitcoin bags, and I know what's going to happen next, the rotation into altcoins. So if I see Bitcoin run out of this cup and handle formation, I'm going to be rotating into altcoins, and that's my plan. Now, where would I be doing that? I'm looking at about 90, 92, maybe about 85. We'll see what happens. I want to see signs of weakness before that happens, but I want to let Bitcoin expand completely, take profit, rotate into the altcoins. Okay, so that's the plan. Now, back onto what's happening with this structure, which is the handle of the cup and handle. Are we actually going to break out here, guys? We need volume. That's the issue, is that the only way we're going to get volume is, you know, FOMO. You know, we're going to get some more market participation in. That's possible, but also the short squeeze, right? So we're going to see a lot of trading volume based on squeezes, right? People going short and exiting their positions forcibly based on liquidation, stop loss hunts, and even capitulation. You know, worried about the shorts not panning out. People exit their positions on losses, and we'll see trading volume increase that way. Could be very possible. But at the current moment, we're playing games. Bitcoin's playing a lot of emotional games with the market, and until we actually start breaking out of these levels, which is at about 72, guys, we could get rejected here. We could get rejected right here on these two tops. We could get rejected on this top, that top, this top, anywhere around this level. And this is why I do not like diagonals. However, guys, luckily enough, entries were early. quickly, and ultimately this was a good level to be buying the dip based on the green arrow, and all of a sudden now we're looking quite bullish for that breakout, right? When are you going to be taking risk? Here, even here, guys, I was saying this is a good time. Right now, all of a sudden, is not the best time to take risk on Bitcoin. If it's going to break out, I know how that will feel, but maybe start looking into some altcoin action. Guys, if you're looking for a leveraged position, look for Bitcoin narrative projects, right? The biggest one is Stacks, right? So you can be looking into that. It is a smaller cap, and it should run up with Bitcoin as Bitcoin runs to the upside. Okay, so that's that. You know, forget oscillators at the current moment. Structure is key. Price action is key. And obviously, if you want more confluence, look at those oscillators. But Bitcoin is looking for a breakout as we speak. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's take a look at IONET. That is the project. Now that we took a look at Bitcoin, we can use it as a leading indicator. We know that Bitcoin's looking bullish. And remember, when Bitcoin's looking bullish, we see that Bitcoin dominance should be going up, right? And it has been. The reality is that what needs to happen with altcoins, if Bitcoin is, you know, basically running the show, is that people will be taking capital out of their riskier assets and putting them where the probability of a pump will be, which is Bitcoin. Now, as we see, we know that there are other narratives that are lingering at the current moment, like the Solana narrative. The Sui narrative is a good one as well. Solana, Sui, you know, even Phantom based on the upgrade is a good one. There's a couple others, you know, Aptos being the alternative to Sui since Sui ran up. So these are the talk. This is the talk of the town in the last little while. Now, what about we stick with Solana for a bit and look at, you know, you want to get into a hot narrative, which is AI, and as well as a hot chain, which looks like it might want to flip Ethereum. That's the talk of the town. And if it does happen, what do you think is going to happen to Solana-based projects? The issue is that recently, Solana has developed a reputation to be purely based off of meme coins, which that is not the case. The reality is that there are projects out there that are solid projects that are based on Solana. Just think about it. Render's is deployed on Solana now, so which is a great project. The problem is that a lot of traditional or good projects that are traditional cryptos, you know, quote unquote, traditional cryptos, not meme coins, you know, don't treat themselves to high standards. And that is a problem because they're not meme coins. In fact, they need to provide high quality documentation and tokenomic information and a lot of other things. Now, I did do a deep dive on IONET and it did, you know, look very well. At the moment, you know, they only were lacking a bit of an updated roadmap, which is not a big deal ultimately because that's an easy fix. When tokenomics, team, and everything else is good, you know, guys, things look pretty promising. Now, Solana-based project, price action is looking okay because right now we're basically at an accumulation range. Now, it could be accumulation. We're not very clear on whether it's accumulation or distribution, but we do see clarity in the fact that there's a lot of volume, and currently we're at the point of control. This yellow box suggests, based on my language here on my charts, suggests accumulation range. And when I did do the deep dive, I did analyze that this level was the best time to be buying the dip. So guess what, guys? We are in the zone. We also have to be clear on invalidation. Invalidation is this thick yellow line. If the price action falls below the thick yellow line, guys, we have to come up with a strategy on how to defend ourselves. Now, it does become a lot easier to defend yourself if the price action or your entry is closer to this horizontal, basically closer to invalidation. Because ultimately, if we fall, it's a shorter way of a distance to the stop loss than it is if you buy now, let's say, or even up here, and so on. But we do know that this was the resistance, not only once, but twice. And it's very likely that eventually we come to this level again, but we need to confirm this level of support. Now, yes, it is a higher low here. Yes, it looks like a dead cat bounce. Yes, it does look possible that we break down and come down to lower levels. However, if you start looking at what's really happening here, guys, you're not buying tops, you're not exit liquidity. And the problem is that we could have a bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt to expect this to break down and get into dip discovery. Very possible. We have to understand that. Now, so what do I say? I say this. Eventually, we should break this trend. And we should break to the upside. The problem is that the market tends to want to be very ruthless and cause a lot of pain. And this is the level where the majority of the pain could happen. And the reason being is that we could actually fall, break below, a lot of people that have very tight stop losses will get wrecked, and you got to think about why they'll be putting tight stop losses. And it's all because of leverage trading, overexposure, high position sizes, type of thing, and that's a bit of an issue, because then you start inducing emotions, and in order to avoid those emotional events, you start putting very tight stop losses. And guess what happens? Market makers want to hunt those levels. So what about if we do fall? Stop losses get triggered. People, whales buy dips and all of that. Price action gets back into structure, back tests if we're lucky, and springs, right? And all of a sudden, this becomes a swing failure pattern, a stop hunt, a liquidity hunt, whatever you want to call it, fake out, whatever it is. Ultimately, this is where pain gets induced. Now, ultimately, we start to see a break to the upside. We start to move to the upside. We start to break trend. We start to change character. Okay, so let's get into that for a second, because it's very important that we identify price structure. So all I'm looking at the current moment is price. Forget oscillators, okay? Oscillators and indicators. You notice that I'm emphasizing the importance of price structure, market structure right now. We made highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and lower highs. Here we made a low, a lower low, double bottom, slightly lower low, higher low. Now what? That's the question. So at this point, we could kind of say, like, maybe the bulls are coming in, maybe the bears are losing strength, and we need now to use our oscillators to get some confirmation. But what I would like to see, regardless of oscillator, is a change of character. As of now, we did make this higher low so far. As long as we don't come down to this level, we're okay. In fact, this is a descending triangular formation that has a bearish bias, especially coming from a downtrend like this. Right? So we have to remain cautious that we could come down for that swing failure pattern based on this being a descending wedge, a descending triangular formation. And as we get closer to the apex, which is currently right now about 70% towards the apex, which is now, guys, it's a high probability that we start breaking out. It doesn't have to be to the downside. It could be to the upside. My bias is to the upside, even though the chart or the structure here has a bearish bias because it's a descending triangle. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. The reason why I'm bullish is because we got these higher lows so far, and we're so close to the apex, and the market needs to start showing us a little bit of strength, particularly in the altcoin market, because we're going to start losing a lot of hope, right? And breaking below lows, below these lows is going to do us a lot of pain. Now, it might be the case, but we have to be prepared. Break the trend, and we start changing character. Highs, we need to break above this high. We need to break above this high. Why? Because we need a higher high. We made a higher low. Well, fine. Let's hope that we keep it that way. Now let's make a higher high. We come down for a higher low. Let's go for another higher high. Higher low, another higher high. Before you know it, we start moving to the upside, and we start changing direction of this trend. Because as of now, we've been making lower lows and lower highs. This could become a massive pivot point structure. This could be a nice, beautiful backtest of confirmation if we're lucky to get that. And eventually, you start looking at historical price action and saying, dang, it gave me all the signals I needed to get in right around these levels. This is the zone to start playing the game, right? The game is to be buying dips, getting into positions that are, in positions of strength where you're not buying tops, you're buying bottoms, where you have a lot of opportunity to defend yourself, right? So that's very key. So what am I saying? Buy a little bit now, reserve a bit of capital if we come down a little bit lower. And if we do come down, you need to be committed. If we do get a confirmation where we get rejected right here on the previous at the horizontal, guys, that's a signal where you got to get out. And guess what? If your average entry is right around here, it's not that far away from the back test, which means that your losses are going to be very, very small. And that's super important, guys, is that to make sure that you get in or your average entries at a position of strength, just in case something were to happen, at least you can exit your positions from a level that you're not going to take too much losses. So this is super important. So what I usually do is get in with a small bag, put a wide stop loss. As we, do stuff here, get back into structure, I get into a bigger bag, I buy the dip, trail up the stop loss a little bit. my position size got bigger, so I want to defend myself a little bit more. And as we come up and maybe back test, buy a little bit more, trail up the stop loss even further, breakout to the upside, fine, I might want to buy the breakout for a confirmation high, a higher high, and then trail up the stop loss further. And you get my point. As I'm trailing up the stop loss, I'm taking less risk. My average entry is right around this level, and little by little, as I am taking more risk because of my position size, I'm de-risking at the same time by trailing up that stop loss. Stop losses help you control your risk. Risk management is absolutely necessary here, guys. So that's the key. Now, if we get into lower time frames, we could probably see a little bit more of a signal, but you can see that there's a lot of volume here. Empty volume gap, which is giving you lots of opportunity for a breakout. If we break above $2.35, we can see some massive moves to the upside, which is good. And ultimately, oscillator. Let's take a look at oscillators. What I don't like is that the EMAs are currently facing down on the trend oscillator. However, each expansion up until now has been smaller and smaller. As you can see this, right? Very clearly, we've got a bearish divergence, continuation. The EMAs are continue grinding to the upside. And so is this. You got to admit, like, this is also trending to the downside. We're ready for an expansion. The momentum, the trend oscillator is contracting. The expansions are contracting, and usually after a contraction there's expansion. So what I'm waiting for is a massive expansion. And what's so interesting to me is that the moving averages are currently trying to get into the bullish control zone. And when we see those, and these are the moving averages right here, when we see the moving averages slowly grind up like this and we get to this level, this is where we see the purple expansions get massive. And you get back to this idea. Look at this case. Bearish, we're in the bearish control zone at the bottom side of the oscillator. Look at these expansions. They're massive, much bigger than these bullish responses. So I feel like as we get to the overbought state, as we get into the bullish control zone, the bullish expansions got to be bigger, because the bullish responses are going to be stronger. Okay, so that's what we're waiting for. Now, as far as momentum goes, you can see that we're still in the chop zone, guys. You know, momentum is stuck here. We're not oversold. We're not overbought for a good while, going sideways. And sideways price action is a good time, you know, to actually come up with your setup and come up with your trade opportunity, your trade idea. And like I mentioned, right now, based on invalidation being so close and the dip being so good on a project that's built on Solana, on a low cap project that's built on Solana, might be a good idea to get a bit of exposure. Now, let's get onto the 4 hour real quick. You can see volatility is going up and down, up and down. As price action is very choppy, so is the volatility, and the price action is not giving you much of an edge on the 4 hour either, because unless you're going to be trading the range. But eventually this range has got to break, guys, and this is why I'm here making this video, because eventually we got to see something happen here within this range. We're going sideways for a long while here, and eventually we should see a break. Even Solana is looking for that breakout alongside Bitcoin. So the market's looking good, guys. Make sure you practice, you know, good risk management strategies. You need to definitely put those in, because at the end of the day, you don't know what the market's going to give us, but ultimately we are preparing. We're going to continue looking for great opportunities, guys. Feel free to join me live tonight at 8 p.m. EST, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover, that is a good time and place for you to join and make those requests, and I'll definitely put them in priority. And we'll be finding those setups. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.